Talking about something that needs to be talked about a lot more, our health, indeed, mental, physical health. Talking now with Coach Christine Trempe. Good to see you. I think I connected with you possibly on social media. I forget, maybe it was Twitter or X. I'm not sure which one. Good to see you.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me. Yes, we connected on X.
This is a topic, I used to work in the media. I told you about that. We did not focus as much on mental health, which is a major issue, but also physical health. And there's so much that I want to ask you and everyone who's here. We have questions, but I want to start out with you. Give me a little bit about your background because you have a story to tell.
Yeah, thank you. And wow, I never imagined in my wildest dreams, Dave, that I would leave a corporate career of 32 years in accountancy to now write and speak and coach about this amazing story that I've been gifted with. And it all began actually 9 years ago this week. I
Wow.
went to the Rocky Mountains in Colorado with my husband on a 25th anniversary trip. And my lovely husband had planned all kinds of fun hikes to go on this trip. And we stopped at the Bear Lake. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Rocky Mountain National Park, but it's beautiful. We went to the Bear Lake, and there actually is like a 1 mile, very flat terrain trail around the lake. And we did that. And that was beautiful. It did not there was no exertion involved on my part. And then he wanted to go climb up to Nymph Lake. So we went to the trail marker and it said it was a half a mile to Nymph Lake. And I'm like, well, I can do that, but then I looked at the trail and I looked straight up and I was like, oh no. But I wanted to go on this hike with my husband. So I set out on this trail with him. And unfortunately, about halfway up this trail, I ended up gasping for air, could not go another step. And I begged off. I told my husband to go on without me. And he was like, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm sure. I can't go another step. Literally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, I could not go another step because, Dave, I had to sit down on the side of that trail on a stump. And that's when I had what I call my turning point moment, because in fact, at that time, I was 100 pounds overweight. The doctor had told me in recent years I was morbidly obese. I had not accepted that. I had not gotten to the point where I was ready to take ownership. But in that moment, I sat on that stump and I just knew, I remember praying, just like, God, I just want to feel better. Because after 30 years of being overweight, obese, eventually morbidly obese, I had given up hope that I would ever live at a healthy weight. So during that sitting on the stump moment, I just wanted to feel better. And it was then that I felt this new resolve in my heart that I was going to take ownership of my health and I was going to go home and I was going to do the things to get my health back on track. Right. So that's my turning point moment. That's where my story began. And we can go from there based on whatever you want to talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to put up your website because a lot of people may want to write this down or take a screenshot on their phone. Your website is what is the website?
It's my name, ChristineTrimpe.com.
Okay, and I think I got a different page pulled up here, but I'll put up the home page.
That looks like my
Um,
about page. Yes.
there we go.
There's
O-
my homepage.
Okay, and a great resource I'm seeing here. Anything weight loss. You have books as well. I know you have. Is this yours right here? Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about. Okay, we'll get into that. Let me backtrack. Let me
Okay.
backtrack. So you had that moment. Take that off the screen. You had that moment. You have a corporate job. You're working, so forth. So what did you do to? What happened after you had that aha moment?
I knew that I was going to go home from that trip and finally do the thing that I had been putting off for years because in my morbid obesity, I also was a chronic snorer. And my poor husband, being in Colorado, he said, he said in the kindest way, he said, your snoring has really escalated here in this altitude. And I just felt so bad. I felt so bad for him. I write about him in my book that's coming up in January. And I just say, that man was a saint. He really truly was a saint for listening to that. So I did go home and finally on that Monday morning when we got home, I called the sleep doctor and I scheduled a sleep study. I did not want to do it because having a CPAP machine did not sound enjoyable, but I grabbed that CPAP machine. I came home and it did help. That is the first medical intervention that I did to help take back control of my health.
That's I have one of those,
Yeah.
and so you did that, and then did you change the way you eat? Did you meet with a nutritionist? How did you go about changing your science, your what you put?
Yes.
How'd that work?
Well, it was all thanks to Dr. Google, to be honest, because I had in my history, I had done a supervised protein shake program at my local hospital. And that I did right before I turned 40 because everybody wants to get healthy before they turn a new decade, right? Well, that diet like failed me miserably. I did lose some weight, but once they reintroduced whole foods to me, like again, I could eat whole grain pasta, I could eat whole wheat bread, I could eat a half a potato, a sweet potato, things like that. I started regaining the weight and it was so disappointing to me. It really, what the rebound weight gain from that diet really, it just crushed my soul. So shortly after I got the obstructive sleep apnea diagnosis, I also began having painful ovarian cysts. So my doctor ordered an abdominal ultrasound and I got the results from that. I did have the cyst indeed, as we suspected, but she also told me I had fatty liver disease. And Dave, that's the thing that scared me straight because I started going on online and reading about fatty liver disease, wondering how my liver got loaded with fat. My doctor wasn't surprised because I was 100 pounds overweight,
Well, yeah,
but she didn't tell me much about it. So I did my own research and I didn't bookmark it, unfortunately, but the thing I took away from my initial research was that sugar is a major hormone disruptor. My liver is full of fat because my insulin hormone is overloaded. It's not working properly. And so that was really the first insight I gained in beginning to wrap my brain around the fact that I needed to go on a quitting sugar journey. That was what's going to help me to help heal my liver. I knew at that point that my fatty liver disease was reversible.
yeah.
Once it turns into NASH, it's still reversible, but once it gets to the cirrhosis of the liver, that's not reversible. So that was really what spurred me on to taking a serious look at my health. And
Wow. So
yeah,
with you, it was. I mean, it's mental, but you that finally you hit the point. Like many people, myself, I say at the beginning of every year, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I go 2 or 3 months, I fall off, and
yeah,
it's so you hit the point where okay, I think I hit my point recently. They told me I'm pre-diabetic,
yes,
and and I have 2 children, a 7 and 11 year old, and I'm like, oh, and my wife just turned. She's 41, and she's like, things are changing when you're a female in your 40s.
yes.
It's not as easy. So what mentally did you just basically have tunnel vision that I'm doing this? This is it's happening.
I look back and I cannot believe the resolve that I had. I claim that that resolve sat in my heart when I was sitting on the side of that mountain
Okay.
because I came home from there knowing that I could not continue to live like this. Like I did not want to sit on the sidelines of life. I wasn't even 50 yet. I wanted to like be able to enjoy my grandchildren someday. You know,
Yeah.
these are all the thoughts that were going through my mind. And I didn't want to disappoint my husband anymore. But of course I had to do this for myself. Right. So that's where the resolve came in. But the more I learned, the more many rabbit holes I went down, Dave. I was so intrigued because I was learning things online, seeing weight loss victory stories of people who had done things were doing new things that no doctor, no nutritionist, no weight loss program had ever shared with me. No, when I was in that hospital program, for example, the doctors, I remember them telling me that I had metabolic syndrome, but they didn't really tell me much more about that. They didn't explain my insulin hormone. They didn't explain that insulin is our fat storing hormone and that my blood sugar was way out of whack. I was diagnosed with prediabetes too, just like you. My blood sugar was way out of whack. So I knew about the blood sugar part, but I didn't really understand the insulin hormone part. So once I started learning all of these things, that's what really gave me a really keen interest into the science of it all. And I made it took me a couple months. Like even when that the fatty liver diagnosis came in around December of 2015. It wasn't until March 10th, 2016 that I was really firm and like, okay, I'm quitting sugar. It really took a couple months of like really mentally thinking about how do I do that? How do I quit sugar?
Yeah.
There's like our food environment is loaded with sugar. Like it was really hard to wrap your brain around. But then the deeper you dive into the science and the more success stories you see of people who are living what I call sugar freed, like you can't unsee what you see.
I bet. I'm going to put your website up here again, and I'm going to put a link to this website in the comments. So if any of you would like assistance, guidance, coaching, or to order your book when it becomes, it'll be available. Everything on this website, right? They can all the
Yes,
resources. Okay.
yeah,
So
yep.
if you're watching this right now, whatever platform, look down in the comments, and I'll have a link to here. So obviously, sugar. How and it would take hours to get into, but how to break free. How much of it is it's mental versus it is an addiction, right? Because I remember going off, I said I'm going to stop Coke and Pepsi, and I would literally have withdrawals, right?
Right. Right. Yes. Oh, definitely. Definitely. If you jump into, for example, if you determine and decide that you want to follow a ketogenic lifestyle, which is really going very low carb,
Yeah.
you are going to have withdrawals if you go all in, right? And you will hear it called the keto flu. And it
Yes.
does. It feels like a flu. It only lasts a few days. I promise you're not going to die, but it's your body adapting, and your body is screaming like, wait, where's the sugar? Where's sugar is such a quick fuel for your body, and that's why physically, physiologically, emotionally, your body is crying out for that to.
Oh, I lost your audio. I think you muted, or we lost you. Oh, we lost something. You went.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, now you're back. You're good.
Yeah, that's
You're
weird.
good.
I didn't touch anything.
No, that's fine. So I just want to ask, sugar is in almost, it seems, everything is. How does someone know? I mean, obviously look at ingredients and so forth, but sugar is everywhere. And the United States is probably the most unhealthiest country in the world. It's so tempting though. You have a
Yeah,
McDonald's and everything on every corner, and it's so
right.
tempting.
Yeah, we've become a people who are we want quick satisfaction. We want convenience, we want a quick hit. And our brain, like I was saying before I cut out,
Yeah.
our brain physiologically is dependent on this sugar, until we wean ourselves off of it. And like you mentioned, sugar is addictive. I recently became a licensed practitioner for a really powerful tool called Sugar. And it's a sugar use general assessment recording, which I take my coaching clients through to determine if they are truly addicted to sugar, if they're like not addicted, or they're a harmful user, or they're a pathological user. Knowing myself and the history that I came from, I was a pathological user of sugar. I was highly addicted. And for me, it wasn't necessarily the sweet stuff. Like I was not the type of person that would sit down and eat a big bowl of ice cream or polish off a sleeve of Oreo cookies. My sugars were the starchy carbs, like potato chips,
Yep.
tortilla chips, things like that. Baked potato skins, loaded baked
Yep.
potato skins,
Yep.
so things like that. But sugar is, sweets, starches, grain-based products, flours, hyper palatable foods, which is our food environment, our factory processed foods. And these psychoactive substances, they can cause our brain to be dependent on it, addicted to it. And it is a journey to break free from it, but it is completely possible. I am a living testimony to it, and not only myself, but the women that I have the privilege to coach and see them be set free from this too. We can break up with sugar. We can crush those cravings.
Absolutely. And it is a matter of health. And during COVID, the United States had, I think, the worst. And they didn't let me do the story at the television station, but
Mm.
our death rates, we're one of the most unhealthiest obese nations in the country. And the processed foods, it's just ridiculous. Have you helped people also any age? If a 50, 60-year-old, can anyone kick sugar? I'm assuming
Yes. Yes, I have clients of all ages. I have a young lady who has a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and she's doing amazing. She's lost 90 pounds now.
wow.
And I help women who are in their I have a couple clients who are in their 70s and wanted to be able they had a lot of pain and inflammation and mobility issues. It's not too late for anybody. Anybody can clean up their way of eating and surely benefit from getting the sugar out of their system because sugar is inflammatory, right? It's so inflammatory, leading to the pain and the inflammation and
And
just yeah.
mental health, because I last night I shouldn't have done it. I went and got fast food. Afterwards,
Mhm.
I felt just blah and I felt sad and depressed. I went on a ketogenic diet for about 6 months straight. I was happy. I had more energy.
Yes.
It actually affects your brain, as in more happiness. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. I experienced it personally, and I didn't realize at the time what was happening. So when I started my quitting sugar journey, I quit sweet sugars and factory foods for about 10 months.
Okay.
And I had not even heard of the word ketogenic until 10 months into this journey. And when I discovered keto, I was frustrated by my slow weight loss. I was losing a little bit of weight, but it was only a couple pounds a month. So I kept doing more research and I discovered the keto way of eating and learned that I was still eating potatoes. I was still eating pasta and I was still eating bread. And those were sugars. Again, those were the sugars that I was highly addicted to. And so the day I learned about the ketogenic lifestyle by discovering Dr. Jason Fung on the Diet Doctor website, binged on his videos all night long, that was the last day I ate bread, potato, and pasta. And that is when the weight just started burning off of me. And that's how
Wow.
I got to, a healthy weight in a pretty reasonable amount of time. So yes, so that was the key for me was going very low carb on everything.
Now, I did this when I was younger, and I think I made a mistake. I just thought I was eating a bunch of cheese, a bunch of meat, bologna, whatever. I thought just as long as it wasn't bread, I was okay. But I think I
Mhm.
was overdoing it with, and you can get into this with people if you work with people, I'm assuming you can't just eat 50 pieces of bacon at one time, probably. That
Right.
doesn't,
Right. Yeah. I do like to joke around and say that I lost 100 pounds eating a lot of bacon. And
yeah.
I did eat bacon is very symbolic for me. It, when I used to eat bacon back when I was overweight, I would feel guilty about eating bacon because, it's so bad for us, right? And I'd feel like, oh, if I eat 2 pieces of bacon, I'm completely ruining my diet. But now I see these success stories of people losing weight and they are including bacon in their lifestyle. And I was like, well, that's something I can do, right?
Yeah.
So I
Well,
did. I don't eat as much bacon now because I focus more on my protein and I've lowered my fat. So I eat more of what you would consider a high protein ketogenic diet.
okay.
So yeah, so no, you have to, make good choices still in what you're putting in your body. But I forgot to mention, you asked about the mental clarity and the mental
Yeah.
health. So as soon as I landed on the keto way of life, I remember about 2 weeks in, I was just sitting at the dining room table one day and I just felt like such a mental clarity that I could not even understand what was happening to me. And I do know it. I'm deeply entrenched in the low carb community on X. And I see stories all the time. I did not have any diagnosed mental health issues, but in hindsight, I know that I did battle a lot with depression and
Yeah.
anxiety because of my health situation mostly. And
Okay.
once I began healing that and having fueling my body, fueling my brain on ketones, my mental health is like, it is not a challenge any longer. Even when I go through difficult seasons, I don't find myself slipping into any level of depression or having anxiety like I used to. And
It-
there's just so many wonderful stories out there of people who have had serious mental health issues healing from that, from eating, choosing proper food, proper nutrition.
Absolutely. Got your website up. The website's in the link for everyone because they're probably going to be asking how to get to your website. In the comments, look for the link.
Okay.
But it seems like, I have a good doctor that will tell me things that she would never say publicly because she'd probably get in trouble from the FDA or whoever.
Mhm.
But why isn't, I think I know the answer, but there's not a push for this publicly because there's a lot of money in processed foods and all this sort of thing, and the FDA and the food pyramid. So it's not mainstream what we're talking about, and what you do. I know it works, but
Yes.
you're not hearing about that in the mainstream medical profession. Is it just because there's so much money tied to this? The bad food? I don't know. I just
Right, right. Well, I never like to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but
well, money,
but
money, and
there's got to be something to it. I say big pharma, big government, big farm, all of the things that are, what's going to happen if America decides that it is going to make itself healthy again, and factories like the place that manufactures Doritos. What if Doritos sales fall? Just things
I
like that. Yeah.
yeah. I have a
Mhm.
my 11-year-old started eating these things called Takis, and I didn't know what they were. And
Mhm.
they're like purple little Dorito type things. And I looked and I'm like, other countries have banned them. And I'm
Yes.
like, oh
Yeah.
my, I couldn't even understand half the things in the ingredients chart. But literally other countries are banning certain things that
Yes.
we're eating here.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
guess people are, do you see more people? One of my last questions here. People are waking up with like, I used to work in back in the day, we had TV, radio, newspaper, that was it. But now social media and people are learning from each other. Do you see an awakening maybe that people are searching out alternatives like yourself and others, and people are starting to see the light?
Yes, absolutely, for sure. I'm so glad we're starting to have more of these conversations as well.
Yeah.
It just the other day there was a congressional hearing that
Yep.
people who are, involved in my lifestyle were able to show up and share testimonies. And I also see a lot of pushback on X about this, like calling it woo-woo medicine. And and I'm like, you know what? People are changing their lives. You should really, take an interest in our stories because they're very powerful stories. My personally, my health is so wonderful. I have a cardiologist, not because I have heart disease, but because my father and my brother does, and my dad's cardiologist wanted to follow me just to make sure I didn't have any issues, and he's so happy. At first, he was a little skeptical about my lifestyle, but I have brought him right on board, and he says, "Keep doing what you're doing." And
Nice.
he's actually the head of cardiology at Beaumont,
Wow.
here in Royal Oak. So, he has my he supports me 100%. My blood work is amazing. My other doctors are, they're like, just keep doing what you're doing, and I feel like I was a little bit instrumental in helping my cardiologist see that there is a different way. And so I love to have these conversations with my doctors too. And thank goodness I have found all supportive doctors. Sounds like you have one as well.
It's yeah, and so last thing, excuse me, losing my voice. ChristineTrimp.com. I'm gonna put a link in the website. If someone wants to go to you, they can look here, get in contact with you. But what is the first step? Someone like even myself, I may be reaching out to you in a week or two, by the way. Or to do my wife and I. But if
Yes.
someone, what do they need to do other than that aha moment? Do they just need to, because it's easy to say, oh, at the beginning of the year, I'll do it. I'll do just just do it, right? I mean,
Yes, right, right. Yeah, it is. I just really love to encourage people to take ownership on today. Today, don't wait, don't wait. And one of the first things that you can do is to choose one thing today that you can eliminate from your diet. For
That's what I
me,
wanted to know. Sorry
yeah,
to interrupt, but
yeah,
is it I'm the type of person that I'm all or nothing, and my wife doesn't
yes,
like that with me.
yeah,
Is it and then when I go all or nothing and I have a hamburger when I shouldn't have or bread, I'm like, "Oh, I'm off the wagon. I'm gonna go
yeah,
wild with it." So should you
right.
does it help to slowly tone down the sugar?
My coaching philosophy is to take it step by step, and my goal for my coaching clients is to be off the sugar, grains, flours within a 2-week period. So, what I did is I quit coffee creamer. Actually, I quit coffee cold turkey.
Okay.
So, because I couldn't drink coffee without my flavored creamer
Yeah,
loaded
yep.
with sugar. So I quit coffee on day 1. A couple days later, I swore off all the candy in the office because I worked in a corporate office at the time. A couple
Mhm.
days later, I said, I'm no longer participating in the desserts, the birthday desserts that we have in the office once a week, right? And then I started reading factory labels and I wouldn't buy anything from the grocery store that had added sugar on the label. So it was just a step-by-step approach, and that prevents the keto flu as well too, because you're doing it gradually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, so it should if you do it,
Yeah.
spread it out a little bit, but yes, take ownership today. You don't have to I really admire the people that jump in and do it
It
cold turkey on day 1 and help them, get through the keto flu, but
yeah.
it's a and you're healing your brain at the same time, right? And what I love to encourage people with is that get your food choices your food choices under control first. And then for so many women like me, Dave, and maybe your wife too as well, but we carry so much emotional baggage because of this. I don't know how it impacts men, because I don't coach men, but women, we just carry so much. We carry so much of the weight of this, and we have a lot of emotional wounds that we need to heal. And if we get our food choices right first and feel that amazing energy, like you've done this for 6 months and you get
Yeah.
this amazing energy, you get this momentum, then we can start getting into the deeper work of, healing the brain, the emotional baggage that we carry, dropping that, leaving that on the side of the path, not picking it up again. That's the real challenge, is the not going back and picking all this stuff back up again. Maintenance, weight loss maintenance is a whole different book that is going to be my next book to write. But
In the next in January is when you have your book is coming out in January, correct?
yes, my book is coming out January 21st. It's called Sugar Freed: Stop Losing the Weight Loss Battle, Start Gaining the Victory. And there's a lot of my story woven into it. 6 stories of coaching clients that I've had the honor to coach, and then really practical advice in how to do this, how to heal emotionally. And for me, it was very much a faith-based and spiritual journey too. So the last section of the book is about that.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. The website is here. Like I said, you haven't coached a guy before, but maybe it'll be me. I'll reach out. I'm going to reach out to you.
This is
Oh,
funny, Dave.
it only helps women. So would you even consider having a guy?
Yeah, listen to this. My coaching client, Sarah, she hopped on and she's lost a little over 50 pounds, and her husband joined her in the process, and he's lost a little over 50 pounds.
Wow.
So together they've lost 100 pounds. And I always tease her and say, you got the buy one, get one free deal, because your
Yeah.
husband came along for the journey too. So by proxy, that's how I help men.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And when the book comes out in January, I'll have you on again.
Okay, awesome. Would love
Okay.
to chat with you again. Thank you so much for the honor to be here today.
Thank you.